This is truly horrible. There's just no other way to say it. We learned yesterday that the Trump administration passed. They said, no, thanks. When Pfizer in late summer offered to sell them more vaccine doses from this initial tranche that is now starting to be delivered, we are already seeing British citizens vaccinated in the UK. So I really need you to understand what's going on here. In the last few days, we learned Pfizer may not be able to get as many doses to the United States as we had hoped beyond these initial doses. And it's now believed that after this initial set of doses that is already being delivered in advance of approval that is expected soon, we are not expecting for the U.S. to get more Pfizer vaccine doses until June of 2021. What? What on earth? June of 2021? How is that possible? It's possible because when the Trump administration said no thanks to Pfizer about buying extra doses in late summer, Pfizer offered them to other countries that said yes. One example is the UK. Again, the UK is already vaccinating people. It's just blunder after blunder, and these are deadly blunders. I mean, quite literally, how many extra people will die because we will be vaccinating fewer people with the Pfizer vaccine as a result of Trump turning down purchasing more doses? So now Trump is panicked. Trump is scrambling to try to force Pfizer into selling these doses to the United States. Trump haphazardly and desperately has put together an executive order that he might sign today or tomorrow, which is, quote, to ensure that the U.S. government prioritizes getting the vaccine to American citizens before it goes to other nations. It's not at all clear with regard to enforcement mechanisms what it is that executive order would even do. Pfizer has sold doses to other countries because Trump turned them down. I would call it a comedy of errors, except there's nothing funny about it. It's more like a tragedy of errors, deadly errors. And in the meantime, not only is the United Kingdom already vaccinating people, the European Union has reached a deal with Pfizer for 200 million doses with an option for 100 million more. Now, when asked about this, the Trump administration spokeswoman for HHS said, quote, we are going to get the 100 million we agreed on. And listen, in any case, there are 5 other possible vaccines. So they're essentially admitting, yeah, we're not likely to get more than just that first tranche of vaccines from Pfizer, but we're sort of counting on other vaccines anyway. And understand that the other vaccines, other than the Moderna one, are not likely to be approved anytime soon. So it is just pathetic misstep after misstep by this administration. Now, let's think of the why. Why would Trump turn down vaccine doses? The only thing I can think of is the Pfizer vaccine wasn't funded by Operation Warp Speed. Is it possible that Trump is so self-centered, so narcissistic, where he didn't want to commit to more doses because Pfizer wasn't an Operation Warp Speed participant? Because at the same time, even though Pfizer didn't participate in Operation Warp Speed, Trump and his staffers have been taking credit for it anyway. So why would that stop them? So the trajectory now is, given that we will not have that many doses of the Pfizer vaccine, the trajectory optimistically would be with Pfizer and Moderna's vaccine, we would have enough supply over the next 6 months to vaccinate about 100 million Americans. That's a little under a third of the population. There's the possibility of getting 100 million doses total. Remember, 2 doses per person. So 100 million would be for 50 million people from the Oxford, Johnson & Johnson and Novavax vaccine options. We don't know when those will be approved or what availability will be. It's also lower efficacy as of right now, but we might be able to get 50 million more people vaccinated with those. So that puts us at optimistically 100 million people vaccinated, maybe by April 1st, maybe May 1st. Starts getting warmer. We would have about 30% vaccination plus 5% people with natural immunity from having the virus, although we don't know how long that immunity lasts. 35-ish going into the summer, more people outdoors, less spread, and more vaccines coming forward. So it still does seem as though it's plausible that the second half of 2021 will be looking much better than now. Do you think I'm being too optimistic based on the numbers we have? Let me know. In either case, it will be very good to have Donald Trump gone in 6 weeks. We will have more coverage of this on the show's Instagram, which is at David Pakman Show. You can also find a loony, wacky, unhinged hate mail I got today on my Instagram, david.pakman. One of our sponsors is privacy.com. They're giving you $5 when you sign up for their completely free service at privacy.com/Pakman. I've been using Privacy for a little over a year now. You've heard me talk about it before. It's a lifesaver, and here's how it works. It takes just a couple of minutes to set up. Anytime you buy something online or on the phone, instead of actually using your real credit card number, the Privacy app and the browser plugin let you give each company a randomized virtual credit card number that you create out of thin air. It'll even autofill the card number with one click. And the payment is taken out of your checking account without the merchant ever knowing your real information. So this allows you to keep your banking information secure, but also to take control of your finances. You can create up to 12 of these virtual credit cards a month. You can set spending limits. You can freeze them. You can delete them anytime you want. So when you do this, it means you're not going to be charged when you don't want to be, because you can destroy the virtual card number right after using it, which, for instance, I love using free trials because I know I won't be charged when the trial is over if I use a virtual credit card number. You're keeping your identity private by not telling companies who you are. You're keeping your bank or credit card info protected against data breaches and identity theft. And it's free. There's no catch whatsoever. But if you want, Privacy also offers a $10 a month plan that gives you 1% cash back and lets you create 36 credit cards a month, and a $25 a month plan tailored more for small businesses where you can create 60 card numbers a month and much more. But definitely go ahead and at least get started with the free plan. You'll protect your financial info. Companies can't charge you unexpectedly. And like I said, you'll get $5 to spend when you sign up at privacy.com/Pakman.